There's this Rick Rubin quote, and it goes like this: collaboration is the key to unlocking new ideas and creating something greater than the sum of its parts. I've always looked up to my creative friends, especially my partner on this project, Ross Bernards. We linked up to head out to Utah to execute our passion project called Paint the Skies. Here's the story behind our epic adventure. For 3 nights, we tirelessly chased some of the darkest skies in America, bringing our project to life.
What are you doing out here?
We are doing some scouting for a light painting project that we're going to be doing tonight, and just trying to get a feel for the canyon, what it looks like, what the spaces are that we're working in. So I'm going to send my drone up as well to just get familiar with flying it in here before it gets dark.
Light painting is like art. It takes time to create, time to experiment, time to learn, and time to tweak. So we did just that. We experimented, we failed, we tried again, we failed again, we tweaked our setups, we put all our effort into this thing to create something we'd never seen before. But why? Some people might ask. To be reminded why we love doing this, and to remind us why we love just getting out to create for fun again and produce something different. That's what art does to us. It reminds us about why we fell in love with photography in the first place. We get a thrill from taking a creative idea and bringing it to life. It's this never-ending chase, the research, the planning, the prepping, the packing, the scouting, the waiting, then executing, failing, trying again, and all the while having an amazing time doing it for the love of photography. Now let's jump into Luminar Neo for a quick editing tutorial, and I'll show you how this program made our resulting images shine. Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in to watch our behind the scenes video about our recent project out in Utah called Paint the Skies. I'm now back in the studio, so I'm gonna walk you through how to edit a dark image like this that we did some light painting on while we were out there in Utah. I'm gonna show you start to finish how I use the tools in Luminar Neo to transform this raw file. All right, so let's jump right into it. The first tool is gonna be the develop tool. I have the raw photo opened up here in Luminar Neo, so I'm gonna walk you through the adjustments that I made to this image. Shot this photo relatively underexposed, so I'm gonna bring this up to about 1.9, 1.88 exposure. Gonna bring the contrast up to 22. I like to retain a lot of the darkness in the photo and have a nice balance between the lights and the darks. I'm gonna drop my highlights down just a bit to about 15. Bring my shadows up to 4. It's looking pretty good to me. I'm gonna move into the curves section of this shot. I added 2 points on this curve, one kind of lower down on the left there and one in the middle to retain some more darks in this shot. I pulled that first spot down a bit, and then same thing with the second curve point here. I pulled that one down as well, and I also added a few points on the red curve, giving it more of a slight little S shape. I'm gonna show you what I did with the reds here. So the top one I pulled up a bit, middle one up a bit as well, and then this bottom one I'm gonna kind of swing a little bit lower, not there, to right about there. I only used those 2 curves on that develop tool there, as well as doing just a little bit of temperature adjustments to this shot. I'm gonna bring up the warmth a little bit, add some saturation and some vibrance to bring the colors out in this shot. I want to retain a colorful final image, and I think that that helps to add a little bit more color here. Noise reduction, I brought the luminosity up ever so slightly to about 12, and I didn't do anything with optics or transform for this particular shot, but I used the noise reduction because we shot a lot of these images at a higher ISO. I'm finished there with the develop panel, so I'm gonna close that tool out. I'm gonna do a little bit of vignetting to this shot. I'm gonna drop this down to about -5. What that does is just kind of darken the edges of the image and draws your eye more to our subject standing here who did their really cool light paint on this photo. So I'm finished with the vignette tool. From there, I'm gonna move into doing some more color adjustments. Open up the color tool one more time, and I'm going to boost my saturation again, ever so slightly, and the vibrance, bring that back up again. I'm going to close that tool out, and I'm going to do a little bit of brushing to fix some of these hot spots on the shot, as well as bring the stars out a little bit. So we'll open develop. I'm going to go to masking. I'm going to click brush and paint in these areas that are a little too overexposed. Some of this is distracting to me, and I don't want to lose my viewer here. So I'm going to brush some of that away, as well as the canyon wall got a little too bright from the LED light we were using. I'll go to the adjustments here, and I will drop the exposure down a little bit just so it's not so abrasive, but you still get a cool creative effect from that light paint element in there. I'm going to also drop the highlights down. We are all set with that brush tool. I will now open up another develop module, and now I'm going to brighten up the stars. So we'll go to masking. We will use another brush. I'm going to make this brush a little bigger. And now I'm painting the sky, just like the name of our project. I'm going to paint that in, jump over here to the adjustments, bring the exposure up so I brighten up these stars quite a bit. I like how that's looking for me. Maybe shadows a little bit. We'll see what this does. I don't want to add any noise to the sky, so I'm going to be pretty delicate with making any big adjustments here. I will add a little bit more contrast because I like the darkness from the sky, but if you really brought up your brightness there, you're going to introduce a lot of noise into this raw file. So a good sweet spot for me, about 0.6, 0.5. That's looking pretty clean there. So I'm going to close that brush tool down, and then from there I'm going to go back to the essentials tools, and we will add a little bit of stylistic color grading into this shot. So you're going to open up your HSL slider, do the drop down. I'm going to focus on the hue panel for the sake of time, and just showing you the adjustments that I made that made this image a little bit more crisp and clean for me. So I'm going to bring up red a little bit more to about 10. I'm going to go to green to reintroduce some greens into this shot. Because a lot of the canyons are red and orange, I'm going to also bring in the orange element a little bit, but I added that green because I want the shot to have a full spectrum of color, and some of that green might have been lost when we did light up the canyon with this light. I'm going to bring the blues up to 15, magenta I will boost to 22, and hue shift to -1. And as you can see, in just about 5 minutes, we made this kind of dull, dark image into something way more interesting and intricate in terms of color and information that we can now see. I'm just going to boost the saturation and vibrance on these colors before closing out the color tool and moving on to crop. And the reason why I do that with my HSLs is that's where you start to introduce a lot of style to your photo. So that is up to you to kind of figure out how you want to manipulate the colors in your image, but that is how I want this image to feel and kind of what it looked like to me that night. Next thing I'm going to do is open up the landscape tool. One of my favorite tools in Luminar Neo is under the landscape tool is this golden hour tool. I don't want to add too much of this, but I'm going to give it a little bit more orange to add more interest to our canyon here. Add some dehaze to this shot to about 7. I like how everything is looking so far. I'm going to close that landscape tool. I'm going to move right into cropping this for Instagram. It's looking pretty solid for me. It's close to export, so I'm going to crop this down to 4:5. That is the proper crop for a vertical shot on Instagram. I'm going to pull down because I want more of your visual interest to follow this light trail in right to the subject there. Hit apply, and it's going to apply the crop. So in just a few minutes there, you saw how we took this dark raw file and made it way more interesting with the tools inside of Luminar Neo. This is one of my favorite start to finish editing tools. I use this for a lot of my night photography and a lot of my landscape stuff. There's some amazing elements in here. Big fan of everything they've done inside of Luminar Neo. Thanks for checking out our Paint the Skies project. Watch till the end of the video where we will flash through a bunch of the images we created out there in Utah. I hope you learned something today from this quick start to finish tutorial. I'm also going to link the preset down below if you want to try your hand at the preset that I've used in this video. It will be linked below this Luminar tutorial. If you have any questions, comments, drop them below. Thanks for tuning in. My name is Frankie Spontelli. Huge shout out to my partner on this project, Ross Bernards. We had a great time creating this alongside our partners. Thanks for being here, and we'll catch you in the next one.